Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Airspeed Reads Naruto video. This one's going to be for volume 71 of the manga, which is called I Love You Guys. And yeah, really nice cover on this one, second last volume of course. I suppose the only unfortunate thing is just that it would kind of make more sense for it to be Kaguya, just because Kaguya is not going to get a chance to be on any other kind of cover, and this kind of is the Kaguya volume more so than the Team 7, fight together volume. I get why they do this just as like a last volume before the end, given what the volume 72 cover kind of is, and in a way kind of had to be. This is good and I like it. I just can't feel like, Kaguya should have been somewhere more present on one of these covers. But yeah, this is an 11 chapter volume, 680 to 690. Once more, Kaguya's tears. Bet you never seen this. I dreamed the same dream. We ought to kill him. All that I've got, bequeath and inherit. You better. He of the Sharingan. I love you guys. And ninja history. So, very important volume. A lot of stuff happens here. As I said, it's the Kaguya volume, so we see her appearance from the end of last volume and her defeat at the end of this volume, which obviously seems like the end of the series, but of course there's one very important thing we've sort of in a way forgotten about. Just what exactly is Sasuke going to be like to handle in the immediate aftermath of this? He wants to become Hokage, and it seems like he's going to kind of force himself to become Hokage by any means possible, any means necessary, and kind of force his opinions on people. That seems to be the perspective he has, even though it's kind of protecting this village that his brother cared about, but it's kind of doing that by just ignoring everyone and just going ahead with his own path. So that still has to be covered going next, but for here we get a lot of team up stuff as it's everyone against Kaguya, but the only people left are basically Team 7 and Obito. So we start off with just the idea that they're in this kind of lava dimension. Sasuke, what you get here immediately when we enter this dimension is the idea that Sasuke isn't caring for anyone except Naruto, and he's only really caring for Naruto because he knows that he needs Naruto's powers and sealing the other half of the sealing jutsu to seal Kaguya away. So he saves Naruto, but basically leaves Kakashi to save himself and Sakura. And it's just this idea of, like, it seems like Sasuke just doesn't care, and it's this moment of, like, wow, he really is just leaving them kind of where he is, and like no one's really caring about them. But I like what Naruto says here, that he kind of points out the idea of like there are times when your body moves just on its own, remember? Like on that bridge, and we flash back way to like some of the early volumes where Sasuke saved Naruto from attacks early on. So he basically just points out, but never mind, I get what you mean. I know that you get what I mean, Sasuke. And Sakura, having been initially like shocked that Sasuke basically abandoned her to die almost, is kind of happy that Naruto has kind of stepped in to say this. And it, in a way, does affect Sasuke later on, given, I suppose, what Sakura does for Sasuke kind of later on in this volume. But it's just a nice thing to point out of like, Sasuke, I think, is fundamentally caring about Sakura. It's just, I suppose you could read it as he was confident that Kakashi had it covered, given how close Sakura and Kakashi were right at the end when they entered this dimension. But it is also a sense of like he isn't necessarily caring about her because he has been ignoring her up to now. But one of the key things we do get here is the idea that Kaguya kind of the few things she actually says, is that she wants to reunify all of chakra once more. Now, it's unfortunate that Kaguya doesn't end up talking a lot throughout this fight, in that she is the final villain of the series, and she's only recently been introduced, of course, after Madara being set up for so long. And I like what they do with Black Zetsu. It's just Kaguya herself. I think without the anime context of that filler arc of basically the origin of Kaguya, the origin of the Sage of Six Paths, without that, 20-something episode arc, I don't think there's as much impact with Kaguya, given how like important the Otsutsukis are in, stuff like Naruto the Last Movie and the Boruto movie, and ongoing, I suppose, still. it doesn't quite feel like Kaguya has the same level of gravitas. Purely, I think, because she doesn't talk a lot, and it is more of like, this is Black Zetsu's plan more so than her plan. Um, I just felt like we needed to get more of an idea of like her and her emotions. We'll get to a moment where her emotions come out quite clearly, but um, it's just not as good as you maybe would expect it to be. But it certainly is she is certainly a physical challenge for Naruto and Sasuke, which is good. Um, but yeah, one of the things that happens here is that she does end up kind of grabbing them both pretty early on, establishing her kind of dimension powers. Not just that she can switch the overall dimension that they're in, but that she can create these kind of portals and like stick her hand in it and then open up a portal somewhere else and her hand comes out there. Just that she can basically like, in a way, it's somewhat similar to like Obito's jutsu, except kind of, done within the exact same dimension. Um, and she basically grabs Naruto and Sasuke and then looks at them and kind of begins to cry. And you get the idea that she's remembering her own sons, Hagoromo and Hamura. It's this idea that, she is seeing the people who defeated her. Like, she was betrayed in a way, that her own sons were the ones who sealed her away initially, and now these people who have, I suppose, the chakra that in her mind she gave to everyone are the ones trying to seal her away again. And in a way, through reincarnations, they are distant relatives of Kaguya in a way. This is where Black Zetsu kind of takes over, and we get his dialogue here. And it ends up being some of the most important dialogue in this entire fight, just because of what it means for like the entire story. Black Zetsu effectively says that you thought Madara was the mastermind behind everything. Actually, it was me. It was me manipulating Madara to manipulate everyone else. It all fundamentally came from me because, as he says here, the tale of Shinobi is the tale of restoring Mother. So this entire, the creation of ninjutsu, the ninja villages, where we are right now, is all just in a way to get to the point where Kaguya can be resurrected. It's, these wars that have caused the villages to form, then these wars which have caused alliances and broken alliances between nations. It's got to this point now, clans and so on, where, as he basically says, going throughout history, that he was the one who like influenced Indra to kind of be more angry about the decision that Hagoromo made. He tells us that first off, 10 Tails is not just the divine tree, it is Mother herself as well. The idea, this is where the whole idea of kind of betrayal comes into play, that this kind of gives more context to the story, that Hagoromo didn't just seal away the 10 Tails, he sealed away his mother, who was the 10 Tails at that point in time. And this kind of shocks Naruto, but like it is the story of what happens. And he basically says that he manipulated Indra, he later manipulated the Uchiha, and the manipulation of the Uchiha came from basically the stone tablet, the Hagoromo's stone tablet, that he basically says he rewrote the ending of that tablet to give them a different interpretation, which is where Madara got the whole infinite Tsukiyomi idea from. Instead of, as Hagoromo said, the stone tablet was more meant to be a kind of something he left behind to try and help someone like rethink basically their approach to things, basically. And he basically talks about how he time after time he'd approach the reincarnate in each clan to attempt Rinnegan manifestation, and it's only Madara that actually achieved it, which is where we get the really good backstory of how exactly Madara actually got the Rinnegan, because we know most of this, but we don't know the full story. So we get the idea that towards the end of their fight, Madara bit off some of Hashirama's arm. He was then, killed in battle, and Tobirama sealed him away in a mountain, but Black Zetsu managed to find him in there. But how Madara survived was that he basically set a time delay ability effect in one of his eyes, and that was the Izanagi. So that's the one that obviously rewrites kind of recent history in a way and allows you to live again. So he basically rewrote reality so that he didn't actually die in that fight at the cost of his eye. So this is kind of the whole idea of like him losing this eye. But yes, so what happens kind of next after this is that this is obviously how Madara returned and how he's still alive at this point in time. He still had the piece of Hashirama's flesh. He grafted that to himself, eventually awakened the Rinnegan, summoned the Ghetto statue, and this is where the whole idea of like Madara thought he was the one who created White Zetsu as like a kind of after effect of this, but it was actually just the people who were trapped in the infinite Tsukiyomi the initial time by Kaguya. And this is where he misinterpreted the whole two polar opposites operating together gives rise to all things in the universe. That was the kind of the misinterpretation. It's meant to more be like, I suppose, the two sides of like Hagoromo's two sons working together are the kind of plus side, rather than the powers of both sides make the best power in the world in a way. And he just talks about how he was the one who came up with the idea about to collect the Biju, the Akatsuki, the war, getting Kabuto involved and showing Kabuto where Madara's corpse was. That's this whole entire thing. And it all kind of comes to root with, I suppose, the one kind of real bit that kind of allows you to get an idea of like Kaguya as a character, of just her saying, I detest you to Hagoromo Hamura, you are mine. And, this being the kind of big thing that Naruto and Sasuke obviously don't agree with. Naruto's the one to speak out mainly against this, that, you two aren't the entirety of shinobi history. And his decision after this is to come up with the idea of how to fight Kaguya. And he decides that the only way to accomplish this is to use that jutsu. He basically says to Sasuke, it's a jutsu I've practiced more than the Rasengan. And it turns out that what this jutsu is it's the ninja centerfold reverse harem jutsu. So it's the kind of reverse of sexy jutsu, this time with guys instead of girls. And the result is that it does distract Kaguya. Kaguya is distracted by all these kind of naked guys. We have Sakura's kind of version of the whole nosebleed upon seeing like naked people. And she basically is just talking about how much of a fool Naruto is for using this technique, and there's no way it could work. It works on me, but there's no way it could work on like a godlike being. Then it works, and Naruto actually gets a really solid hit in on Kaguya, and she's completely shocked by this. And this is the idea that Kaguya is actually really strong, but Naruto and Sasuke are a challenge for her because effectively, it is very similar to Hagoromo and Hamura against Kaguya, except I suppose there would technically be like less power involved in this current fight because they don't have someone like a Hamura who is more kind of Byakugan focused as far as I'm aware. So there's slightly less power here with Naruto and Sasuke than was in the initial fight, but I don't think Hagoromo or Hamura, either of them fought in the way that Naruto fights, in terms of how how completely unpredictable some of his movements are, and they nearly seal her, but she does manage to stop them, and they switch to kind of an ice dimension here, and we just get a lot of dimension switching at this kind of point in time as they, Sasuke decides like, let me come up with the next plan, but cleverly, Black Zetsu and Kaguya decide together they have to split Naruto and Sasuke up. That way, if they're split up, the sealing can't actually occur. So Sasuke is sent off to some other dimension on his own, as everyone else is left to fight Kaguya. So it's effectively Naruto on his own against Kaguya here. And what I think is very impressive about this is that he does manage to hold his own. He's always, I suppose, for the most part, on the defensive, but he's looking for an opportunity to fight back. And this is where like Sakura and Kakashi and also Obito, who kind of wakes up at this moment, they have to decide how to get Kakashi back. It's also, we have one of our few cutaway moments as well with this. We return to all of the reanimated Hokage, and from what's left of Madara's corpse, the Sage of Six Paths kind of spirit comes out and notes that Hashirama is a very kind-hearted fellow, of like as a previous reincarnation of Ashura, and he basically just kind of prepares them to do some sort of a jutsu, as we kind of learn about a little bit later on. But that's the importance of them. So yeah, everyone's kind of active again, including Obito, and the idea is that Obito spots her switching dimension. He spots her kind of technique where she puts her arm through the kind of black portal and it comes out a different place, and notes that that's a kind of similar to mine. It doesn't go directly to the same time space as my Kamui goes to, but it's the same effect, and he kind of feels that if he can like resonate the energy of his Kamui with that, he can effectively have somewhat of a control in the same way that Kaguya has. The only difference is, of course, that Obito doesn't have a ton of chakra left, and to do it over multiple dimensions and not just the Kamui space-time dimension, he needs tons of chakra. And Naruto needs all the chakra for his clones and so on. So this is where Sakura has to step up and use what's left of her 100 healings chakra to support Obito so they can search the dimensions for Sasuke. And it's here that Obito basically says to everyone that he is ready as Naruto's senior, who had the same dream as him, to kind of die for him. Kind of as, I suppose Sakura basically notes that he can't be saved in a way, that he's going to die from like everything that's happened to him. So yeah, the fight continues. Naruto uses Naruto Ultimate Barrage, where he does an insane number of shadow clones and forces the kind of Kaguya to retreat. It's pretty cool just because he like really does overwhelm her with like all of this chakra, kind of using energy from like almost all of the tailed beasts. As you know, they come up with a bit of a plan here of like, you know, using Kamui and so on, and you know the villains are kind of constantly like, the one thing we have to avoid is Naruto and Sasuke being together, so that their sealing jutsu can actually work. And you know, this is where like a lot of the kind of action stuff happens. It looks like Naruto's killed at one point because it looks like he sent his actual body through the portal with Kaguya, when in fact he actually sent a shadow clone instead and tricked them, and his actual body was left in the real world. And it was actually just an overall distraction to allow Sakura and Obito to basically go to the same space-time dimension as them. And it was ultimately like just Naruto sacrificing some of his clones to give Obito and Sakura kind of free reign to kind of search the dimensions. And we see they're putting a lot of kind of chakra in as Obito searches the dimensions. And it's going to be tough because kind of Obito is almost implied like is going blind in a way. He's losing the sight in his eyes, and Sakura is running out of chakra. But they do eventually manage to find where Sasuke is, and they can barely keep the portal open, but he manages to get through using his Rinnegan power to kind of, you know, teleport between spaces. And what happens here is, as Sasuke comes out, Sakura collapses from a lack of chakra, but Sasuke doesn't let her fall and actually kind of catches her, and they kind of have a moment up here where they kind of just look at each other. And I suppose this is where it's meant to, link back to the early stages of this volume, where Naruto said, you know, sometimes your body just moves on its own. And I suppose the somewhat of an implication is just that, you know, Sasuke's arm just moved on its own. It wasn't that he was trying to save Sakura or anything like that. But it is a very nice moment of just Sakura putting everything in to help Sasuke, and him, I suppose, just doing something little for her in terms of stopping her from falling. But just a nice moment for sure. But yeah, Kaguya continues to take out lots of the shadow doppelgangers. She's using this kind of ash technique where she fires these rods at you, and if you get hit by them, you basically turn to dust. And it's a super powerful attack where, like, if you get hit, there is kind of no like healing it. There's no kind of coming back from it. If you're hit and you're gone, and it's really, really bad. But yeah, what happens next is Sasuke comes back next to Naruto. The dimensions are swapped again, this time going to a heavy gravity dimension, where even Kaguya is affected by how heavy the gravity is. And what happens here is that Sasuke and Naruto are kind of out of power temporarily. So it's left for Obito and Kakashi basically to kind of step in. They have some energy left, and step in and take the hit for Naruto and Sasuke from these two rods that are about to hit them. And it's this really nice symbolic moment as kind of like the spirit of Rin kind of like spurs them on to kind of drive forward to get in the way so they don't miss. But what happens is that Obito gets in the way of Naruto, Kakashi gets in the way of Sasuke, but Obito takes the hit and also Kamui's away the one so that Kakashi doesn't get hit. So it's another time that Obito is saving Kakashi here. And he basically just says, Kakashi, you stay here a little while longer. Don't you rush to follow us. And it's the us he's talking about is, of course, him and Rin. So, nice moment as kind of Kakashi is saved, but Obito is crumbling away. And Naruto kind of keeps him like from crumbling away just long enough for like a little bit of more talking, and it's just, I suppose, Naruto accepting that Obito is going to die here, and kind of this acceptance of the fact that Obito has kind of done something good in his last moment, and Obito kind of thanks Naruto basically for, basically thanks Naruto for waking him up to the person that he used to be. That he says, when I was a kid, I'd imagined myself as Hokage so often. I think you brought back that indescribable feeling and exhilaration and uncertainty. Imagining the village, comrades, and me as a Hokage, even after all that's happened, just the thought of it seems to fill up the hole in my heart. And he says, is it because I'm dying I find myself rambling all of a sudden? And it's just this idea that he knows that as he's moving on, he's going to kind of be with Rin going forward, and he basically says a lot more suffering likely awaits you, Naruto. However, just keep forging on ahead without changing like always. You once told me that never going back on your word is your shinobi way, right? You better become Hokage. And it's this really, really nice art on this page of just like Obito's last moment before he fully crumbles away, of just basically fully passing on his dream to Naruto. Not just, try to become Hokage. It's you better become Hokage and accomplish my dream. And Naruto is happy with this and is willing to fight for everyone, including Obito. But we also get this moment of just basically, I suppose it's meant to kind of be the afterlife of just young Obito has finally come to meet Rin. Like it's been a long time, but she's been watching all along, and he says basically in this last moment to Rin, do you mind waiting just a little longer? I have one last detour to make along the way, referencing the fact that the reason Obito was always late for anything he agreed to do was because he always, something happened to him on the way. And who does he want to save this time? It's Kakashi. And he basically says just that it's annoying seeing him all stiff and useless. His name may mean Scarecrow, but that doesn't mean he should be acting like one. And Rin just is happy that Obito and Kakashi are so close, and he basically says, I'm going to go see Kakashi. And it's hard to explain what exactly happens here in terms of how it fits in with everything else, but the idea basically is just that he basically says that your life force and chakra are in essence one and the same, and because Obito has the Kamui Sharingan, he basically kind of Kamui's his spirit, what's left of his chakra, and kind of forces that chakra into Kakashi and gives him, for the remainder of that chakra, while that chakra is still active, he gives Kakashi both Sharingan of the Kamui. That because it's fundamentally Obito's technique, putting what's left of Obito, his spirit, into Kakashi, gives him this temporary use of basically the full power, the absolute kind of max potential that there ever was for Obito's technique had, he unlocked both eyes himself and so on. So we get this moment of, Obito saying to Kakashi when he's inside him, you know how I told Naruto to become Hokage? I meant to say as the 7th. You ought to be the 6th Hokage, Kakashi. And his gift to Kakashi, assuming he will become the next Hokage, is that he's giving him both Sharingan, and the Kakashi of the Sharingan is back now with both of them. And we kind of cut away from this for actually a little bit as Naruto and kind of Sasuke do some work, as they manage to force Kaguya into kind of instability. She obviously has the 10 tails inside her, so it kind of begins to kind of burst out. It looks like the nine tail beasts are about to kind of burst apart, basically. Just a sense that they do have her on the rope so much that she can barely keep her own form. But she kind of does manage to fight back. That the power of this instability is actually so strong that it nearly manages to kind of get everyone. And as the attack goes to hit Sakura, Sasuke is a bit too slow. He can't quite get to her in time. But who does get to her in time is a different Susanoo hand, and it's revealed that Kakashi is controlling what is effectively, I suppose, would have been Obito's Susanoo. So that's really cool that we get that. And you do get a lot of frustration from Sasuke that like he's seeing Kakashi use the Susanoo despite not being an Uchiha, but it's a nice moment here. And the cool technique that Kakashi's Susanoo can use is a Kamui Shuriken, which is a really cool technique that you throw a shuriken at something and then you immediately teleport some of that being away, and it's this moment that kind of forces the instability away, and kind of Kaguya regains control of herself. And this is where we kind of set up the last little bit of the volume of just that Kakashi saying, gather around, I've got a plan. This will be our very last mission as the former Cell number 7. We're going to save the world. And so it's come down to this, the final engagement of this battle between Kakashi, Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke against Kaguya and Black Zetsu. And it's really cool as we see Kakashi come straight at Kaguya. He uses the fact that he has both eyes now, so stuff passes through him, the original technique of Obito, Toby, or whatever you want to call him. And he uses Kamui Lightning Blade and slices off one of Kaguya's arms. He doesn't. I suppose he doesn't actually slice it off, but he damages it enough that she can't move it all that effectively. So she's only able to attack from one side as Naruto and Sasuke are coming for her. But she kind of has it prepared so that she can hit both of them. But as she hits Naruto, it's revealed that that's actually just a shadow clone. And that Sasuke was actually Naruto coming for her, and that Sasuke is actually one of the kind of transformed Naruto clones, I suppose, in the group, and he basically uses his Rinnegan technique to switch places with the clone who's basically just about to vanish, and so he appears right next to Kaguya. She's already fired off her shot. And so it looks like this is how the sealing is about to happen. She doesn't have actual Naruto covered. She doesn't have Sasuke covered. Instead, what she does is she basically kind of hesitates in this last moment. The only place that she can go to is the ice world, but if she goes there, she'll be at risk from Sasuke's Amaterasu. So she goes up instead. She basically accelerates upwards away from their sealing jutsu. Not aware of the fact that Sakura is coming from above towards her, and Sakura just delivers this like amazingly powerful punch to the back of Kaguya's head and just nails her, which sends her like flying down into the sealing jutsu for Naruto and Sasuke. So the three of them, I suppose the four of them, have all done it in terms of like Kakashi as the supporting act for this final attack on Kaguya, and then the three actual members of Team 7 being the one to finish her off. I really like that Sakura was included in this. Just kind of establishing that like she is so physically strong that she can actually send Kaguya flying down like that. Really cool moment. Just that, Sakura going forward can always say that she kind of punched, like effectively, like the god of chakra and stuff like that. So Kaguya is kind of sealed away in this moment. She experiences loss once again. She says, again, I, the originator of chakra, defeated by pieces of my own chakra. And so what happens here is that she basically begins to transform into the Ten Tails. As the jutsu, what it effectively does is it uses earth and basically surrounds the Ten Tails, Kaguya, Divine Tree, in earth. The Nine-Tailed beasts kind of drop out, so they're free. So Naruto has kind of succeeded in his other goal in this fight. But what happens is that Earth begins to surround the Ten Tails, and it basically becomes a mini moon in a way. And it's kind of noted again previously that this is how the moon in the first place was formed, by the initial sealing of Kaguya. That's where the moon is actually from. So they all get out of the way. Naruto, on the other hand, goes looking for someone else, and he actually finds Black Zetsu, who is left attached to the ground because obviously Kaguya's arm was kind of like cut off, I suppose, temporarily in the blast. And he makes sure that the one mistake, I suppose, that Hagoromo and Homura made, which was not being aware that Black Zetsu was made at the last moment, he hurls Black Zetsu up, so he is included as part of this new kind of moon object that is formed here. So that's kind of what happens here. Yeah, so they do this giant summoning jutsu, which summons Naruto and so on back to the actual dimension that they're meant to be from. And the Sage of Six Paths reveals that he got the spirits of all of the previous Kage to teleport, like all of the tail beasts plus Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi back. And we just have this moment of like, the war's won. The fight is over, and Sage of Six Paths just says, Naruto, Sasuke, and the rest of you, excellent work saving the world. And that's where he ended this volume. So still some stuff to be resolved in that. I think there's still a little bit of like what exactly happens with Kaguya to be resolved in that. There's obviously not 2 moons post this time. So I believe what happens is like that they transport this moon to a different dimension. No, actually, what am I thinking of? They do the sealing in a different dimension, so it becomes a moon in that dimension, and then they're transported back to their own dimension where the original moon is. So, sorry, I completely lost track of that temporarily. It is somewhat confusing in that they never kind of make it clear that kind of like they're creating a moon for this new dimension and stuff like that. But anyway, they are all back safe and sound, and that's the end of the volume. So it is a really good volume in terms of like the fight and how it was done, and that there's a lot of nice nostalgic moments in terms of like the return of Kakashi with the double Sharingan, him using Susanoo, the techniques that he uses are very clever and kind of fit him. Kamui Lightning Blade, Kamui Shuriken, really nicely done. The idea that part of the fight involved like Naruto using like a reverse sexy jutsu, Sakura's strength being very important in the fight towards the end, and her kind of supporting other characters throughout the fight to allow Naruto and Sasuke to keep fighting going forward. All the stuff with Obito and Rin I think was quite well done. It's just, I think the only thing lacking was just a little bit more from Kaguya herself, which I do think is given to us by the filler arc where her kind of origins are revealed, and the fact that she didn't always hate humans and like she does now, that she did come with, I suppose, different goals than she kind of seems to portray here. So it's one of those ones where like they just kind of ran out of time in terms of like properly developing Kaguya, but just as this kind of like nuclear level threat that they just had to deal with and seal away in the same way that was done in the past, I think it works quite nicely. So yeah, that's volume 71. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this volume review. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.